recognized animals in Africa, or most associated with Africa, zebra. I remember years ago, I mean, we're talking about the early 2000s or something, I was reading an article where they did a survey with people visiting Africa from all around the world, what they expected to see or hoped to see. You know, what do you associate most with Africa? Hey, a bit of activity there from the impalas. Beautiful when they run like that. And let's actually get a couple of emails from you. If you feel like, you can send us an email as well to questions@wildearth.tv. Otherwise, just hashtag Safari Live, as you know. Get what a couple of you guys think. I'll tell you just now. This is a study from long ago, meaning 15 years ago or something. But I'll tell you that just now. The top 4 animals associated with an African safari experience. You might have probably guessed that zebra was one of them. The time I was there was during Christmas time. Beautiful, all the snow and the lights and everything. I loved it. You were just wondering, wait, a bit of play there between them. Also a bit frisky. It's a bit cooler. It's been raining. They've got good food, so there's a little bit more sort of energy for playing and having fun. Brilliant. Jeffrey, you were just asking if zebras have ever been domesticated. Well, not as a species. In other words, they haven't been domesticated the ways dogs or cats or horses have. There's been individuals tamed over time. Circuses, obviously, in the early days of the transport industry in this area, in the Lowveld. I've seen photographs, old black and white images of zebras drawing some of the wagons. But I know I've seen photographs, old black and white images of zebras drawing some of the wagons. But I know that they, generally speaking, were not always the easiest things to work with. Their temperament wasn't good. Keep in mind that things like horses and cattle, you know, it's been done for so long. We've been domesticating them for centuries, for generations.
No, it's not easy.
But also for temperament and for ability to work with them. So
like
zebras don't have the greatest temperament for it.
You know what I mean?
Beautiful view here, and also for you to be quite cool. There has been cases of individual zebra tamed, but 1, 2, 3, 4 adult females. That foal will leave the herd when it gets old enough. But apart from this interesting social behavior and so on that you can get with them, they're just absolutely stunning. And if you get close to them, which is why I'm trying to get closer, the stripe pattern, I always just love the detail of it, the perfection of it. Whether it's the stripes going perfectly from the skin to the mane on the necks, or on the shoulder, that little triangle that it makes, the shadow stripes over the rump. And of course with these species, or these zebra, the Birchall zebra, the striping goes all the way down to the foot and all the way underneath the belly. You get another species of zebra, the mountain zebra, or the Hartmann zebra in Namibia, where the belly is stripeless, so the belly will be white, and the legs will also sometimes not be striped all the way down to the foot. So those are some of the sort of visual differences. Little youngster. And at least one of those mares looks very ready for having a foal, so I did actually see that just now. I think Anne saying that she noticed one of the zebras looks like it could be lame in its left front leg. I think it was actually that youngster, the one we're looking at now. Didn't quite look, you know, totally lame to me in terms of that it couldn't use the foot, but I did notice it limping, and it looked like the front left leg. Maybe in all the running and playing, something got sprained a little bit. beautiful, just listening to all the bird sounds. Rattling sesticula, a little brown bird that we can hear there to the sort of off left from us, that one going chee 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 trrr, chee 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 trrr. Not like that, but like that. I think you know what I mean. Not a musical sound, more a noisy sound. Fork-tailed drongos, can always hear them calling. Turtle dove or a ringneck dove in the distance. Guys, hello Kathy. Now Kathy's sitting in Tennessee and watching it with her parents who are sitting in Ohio. I love that. I love the fact that you can all sit in different parts of the world and share the same experience. It's brilliant. You were just asking Kathy whether there's any benefit in animal species, multiple species, let's in this case say zebra and impala, although impalas don't migrate here. Well, zebras don't really migrate in this area as well. But you're asking if there's multiple species migrating together, and I think you might actually be meaning moving together. I mean, migrating would, in African terms, mean move from one area to another, so a massive sort of change of location like you get in East Africa. But I think you also might be referring to sort of general moving around together, and certainly there is. Grazing animals often share space together, so zebra and wildebeest, or in East Africa topi. In other parts of South Africa you would get things like hartebeest or tsetse, antelopes that are similar in habitat preference, and they will often travel around together, move around together. Just the more eyes, the more ears, the more eyes there are to look around, the more ears there are to listen, the higher the likelihood of finding a predator.
It's not always that leopard tracking goes your way, and so far it isn't going our way.
Been looking really hard.
Has its technical challenges. We're experiencing and get you back on the vehicle with us.
The drainage line, I'm not sure if we crashed out, our satellite went down, just had a bit of a blip there, but I just want to do a little recap for you. We picked up with Brent and Brian and Jamie and Steph, and they'd got that leopard visual. Really important, got that visual level, and then backed away. And then when they backed away, we then attempted to come up and try and find it. We dropped down into the drainage line, went through some very thick country. When we came to you again and we told you we were tracking still, came back through the drainage line again and over this other side. Now this is the junction where the three drainage lines meet, so this is probably the best spot, but we haven't had any joy. Not to say that it's not over yet. Brent's gone back out there and I can hear sort of some discussion going on over here. They probably will come back to us just now. But for the minute, it's really, really important that you start to look at all the different tracks and signs, and it's not just the visual track, but it's dung, it's fur, it's feathers, it's any indication that an animal has been there. And dung is a really, really important thing. You can learn loads from it, and it's kind of fun. Let's go and see what the guys have got in the tent.
Right, everyone, we are looking at some pretty unsavory stuff, really. It's some dung, and the dung that we're looking at is of an animal you were looking at earlier, a dwarf mongoose. Now, we've got the microscope up here, and you can see the diet of the mongoose is relatively varied. That is a beetle leg over there that you can see. There we go, the leg of a hapless beetle that ended up in a dwarf mongoose belly. And then these little sort of bits and pieces here, that's sort of pieces from the beetle's chitinous skeleton, exoskeleton. So chitin is a totally indigestible part of what gives the exoskeleton of a beetle structure. So that's what that is. And then the other thing that this chap's been eating is some millipede. There we can see some millipede. Millipede shell, and again probably largely made of chitin, the exoskeleton. The insides are very nutritious, delicious stuff, the dwarf mongoose, but will be unable to digest that sort of chitin there. The other thing is that they can't eat too many millipedes, of course, because there's cyanide in the millipedes, so not very particularly delicious. Right, so that was the one dung sample we have to show you. I'm just going to move things about a little bit here, toss this on the floor, and then load up some more. There we go. Now, kids who are watching, please do not go into the wild and pick up a whole lot of poo, mainly because you'll probably forget to wash your hands, eat a potato crisp like Scott Dyson just did, and end up with a bad stomach infection. Do not pick it up. Okay, right, so here we go. This is from a very unusual animal, a spectacular animal called a pangolin, which looks a little bit like an armadillo, although it's not related to an armadillo at all. And this pangolin has got scales, very armoured scales. We'll show you a picture of it just now, but it eats almost exclusively ants. And all that you can see in here, I'm just going to try and find you the remains of a bit of an ant. There, we've probably got one there. There. So all of this is little bits and pieces of ant. That there would be a piece of ant. It's very difficult to try and get really kind of understand what the thing's eating from what we're looking at here. There are a couple of legs. Here we go. There's a leg there. That there. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it in the microscope. It's not as easy as it looks, I'll tell you. Come back to me while I try and find it. Okay, here we go. Right there. Wait 1 second. Right, there we go. We've gone back to the microscope. There is the leg. There. That you can see moving there. That looks like the leg of a fairly large ant to me. So I think that's probably what that is. And unlike the mongoose, won't have a very variable diet at all. So let's come back to me and I'll show you a picture of a pangolin, which is probably a little bit more interesting than looking at its dung. I have yet to see a pangolin here. I've seen one in the, not in the Sabi Sands, I've seen one in the Timbavati, which is just north of here, but I've never seen a pangolin in the Sabi Sands. So that's what a pangolin looks like, and unfortunately they're quite threatened because those scales are used in traditional medicine every so often, but they occur relatively commonly in these protected areas, and they're quite difficult to find, so potential poachers have a tough time finding things like pangolins. Then the one other thing I wanted to show you right now, once we just get rid of that dung onto the floor, we'll have to sweep it out of course after the show. We don't want the tent starting to smell like a sewer. We have this scorpion. We have this scorpion here, and a really amazing thing here that I did a bit of studying on scorpions today, and what we'll try and do is let's just home in on the skin, not the skin, the sting. Sting first. Focus. There we go. That's relatively focused. Okay, let's go across to the microscope. Now, unfortunately, I've put this on the left-hand side, which I shouldn't have. That bit there is where the anus of the scorpion is, astonishingly. So its digestive tract runs all the way up its tail, which I just find absolutely incredible. It runs all the way through there. This is the whole tail of a scorpion called a burrowing scorpion, or Opisthythalmus glabifrons. Scott Dyson taught me that. I'm very proud. He just gave me a thumbs up from behind scenes. He's looking like a very proud teacher. Now, the other thing that's interesting here, and I'm going to show you not from the scale, let's come back to my face and I'll just show you what we're going to look at now. There, you've got the pincers. Okay, now what's interesting, these are modified, well, they're pedipalps, so this is not part of the legs. Now, a scorpion has got 8 legs, and these pedipalps, which are sort of like a 10th limb, but they're not actually limbs at all. So if you look down here, what we want to look at, perfectly in focus first time, astonishing skills. Alright, let's go back to the microscope. These hairs, and again this was taught to me by somebody a bit more clued up than I am, and that was Stefan in this case. These hairs are apparently massively sensitive. and they fall into little pits. This microscope's not quite powerful enough to see those pits, I don't think. And they're so sensitive apparently that if you pull one of these things out, it's a bit like, probably like having your tooth drilled by the dentist without any form of anesthetic. That's the kind of sensitivity that they have. And they use them because a lot of these things hunt in the dark. This one definitely hunts in the dark. And if you imagine him, let's come back to me and I'll show you what they do. You can see the hairs here. You imagine when they are trying to collect things in the darkness, they can feel what they're grabbing with those hairs by moving and feeling exactly where their prey are. They also sense humidity and temperature, and they're called setae, are they? Trichobothria, not called setae at all. Thank you for that, Scott. Okay. Let's go to the bushwalk. They've got a very beautiful flower to show you, which makes a lovely fruit, and I'll see you just after. No, man.
So, unfortunately no leopard, but we have come across one of my favorite little snack bushes while out walking through the bush, and unfortunately this one doesn't have any snacks on it yet, but I know where it is and I'll be back. It's called a bird's brandy, or a lantana. Interestingly, it's the only indigenous lantana species to southern Africa. We do have a very bad invasive lantana that comes from South America that's used for hedges and things like that. Very, very pretty flowers, very similarly shaped to these flowers, but lots of different multicolors, sort of red, orange, yellow. Very, very beautiful, but highly, highly noxious. If cattle or people eat the fruits or leaves from Lantana camara, the other lantana, they will die. This, however, is completely harmless, and the fruit is actually very, very, very tasty. That's why it's called bird's brandy. A lot of bird species are absolutely adore feeding off it, as well as me. Also, traditionally, the Afrikaans people, the first Dutch settlers in southern Africa, used to make a very nice preserve, a sort of a jam out of the bird's brandy. But it has been one of those afternoons, I'm afraid, and very frustrating to have found a leopard on foot. I just couldn't get HT there, and that leopard, I'm quite sure, is still lying up in that thick drainage line. Hopefully he'll make an appearance later on the sunset safari or on tomorrow morning's sunrise safari, but at least we know there's a leopard here, and that's half the battle. We know the area to start looking. We're not just sort of driving around. So our odds at finding a leopard have increased dramatically. So we're quite far from the vehicle, and so it is getting to that time of the night where us walkers have to start heading to the safety of home, and that's an instinctive response from when all of us used to live on the African savannas. And that's why you want to go home at night. You get that little tingle at your back of the neck at the end of the night as the sun starts setting. Time to get to where it's safe, and that's our little instinctive response to get away from lions and other predators that roam the night. We're the dominant diurnal predator. We are absolutely helpless in the darkness, so none of us want to be in that position. So we're going to start walking our way back towards our vehicle, and while we do that, we're going to hand you across to Peter. But enjoy the rest of the safari, and we'll see you bright and early tomorrow.
Well, as you all know, sun is busy setting, and it seems that leopard managed to give us the slip for now. But you never know, leopards move around, especially this time around dusk. We're also in that general vicinity now of where Hayden and Brent has been, so we might still find this leopard slightly more randomly perhaps, but while driving around here. Beautiful bird, even though you might not necessarily see what it is straight away because it's a juvenile, and it's a juvenile battalier, or short-tailed snake eagle sometimes referred to as well. Perfect perch on the dead tree branch. They might even sleep there tonight, or might fly off. Still enough daylight for a bird to fly around in. Nice big moon as well. Hey, sorry. So I love playing with trigonometry, if you want, the relation of position of things relative to distance, and that's just a jabbery way of saying I'm going to try and show you this bird and the moon in one frame, but I think it might be a little bit tricky, but let's try, why not? Okay, Jean-Ray? Yeah. Otherwise it's going to fly. Would have been fun, but a nice big moon up there, that's actually wanted to show you or tell you it's gone. Not quite full moon, but we're looking at about a 3/4 gibbous moon. In other words, it's between half and full. Have a pretty well lit night once it's dark, or once it's actually never dark in the bush. Once the sun is set, I mean, it is dark, but I mean there's always varying degrees of light available. If there's no moon, it's the darkest, and then there'll be starlight. So the darkest conditions you can get would be no moon and heavy overcast conditions. Then it can get pitch dark. Otherwise, there's always a bit of light, moon or stars or a combination of. I think it would be nice to find a leopard. What do you think? So we find a leopard. It's fine. John Ray's keen as well. Hello Sandy. The monkeys were quite fun earlier. I believe there's been a few sort of comments and chats about it. Monkeys are great. I like monkeys a lot. Funny to watch, entertaining to watch. Great little characters. And Sandy, you're just remembering back to some of the antics we had. I know Sandy, you've also been part of this experience for a long time. Roadblock. What do you guys think did this? Let's have a look. If you look at the sort of the basic, any of these twigs at the tips there, that's wide would have been done. This would have been from elephant, pushing over this tree, which is a knob thorn, one of the acacias, and then eating the smaller, softer twigs at the top. Sandy, we'll finish talking about the monkeys just now. But yeah, this specific one, I'm not going to struggle with it now because I'm not as strong as an elephant. You need an elephant to move this. But we need to clear this on the road. We'll just find a way around, which, generally speaking, is quite easy. Yeah, no. As if I was, sorry, thanks Tara, just letting us know we can go somewhere else, but we don't need to. Even if I did move the tree, it would be fun for you guys to see how we do it, but this is too big. I'm going to be not doing anything other than getting red in the face. Okay, but we can drive around it. So Sandy, to come back to the monkeys, and you were referring back to the monkeys in camp. Back in the day, I'll tell you a specific story about it just now, but we had that, the Gari gang, the monkey troop that lived and still lives around Waitela Lodge, Wild Earth Camp, around that Warthol area. We see them most often when they tell us about leopards, really. That's the times we notice them the most. But they would get up to all kinds of naughtiness and nonsense around our camp. And Sandy also asking about the troop of baboons that we used to see sleeping up in those trees close to the Warthol. I don't actually know. That's changed somewhere in the time that that I've been away. So when we came back last year, we started, going around Djuma again. They were gone. I'm not sure what happened. Something would have changed. Maybe they'd find a better area or a better place to sleep, or who knows, something would have changed that behavior. But the monkeys, no, maybe I'll keep that story for another time. It's a longish story, and I want to look for a leopard now. So if you can remember, Sandy, maybe in Big Cat Week, if you're driving along and there's not much happening, ask me about the monkeys in camp. I'll tell you two stories. One had to do with Leishan and I coming back from a leave cycle, and Leishan's mum, who's a lovely lady, spoiled us with this big bag of really nice sweets and chocolates, and the monkeys getting hold of that. And then I think it was 2 nights or 3 nights later, we had an experience. There's a bit of noise outside the bedroom late at night, 1 o'clock at night. Leishan thought were monkeys, but they were not. But I'll tell you that story another time if you remind me. And now we're not far from Twin Dams. We're going to look around Twin Dams, maybe take the riverbed. It's a beautiful drive. Let's see what happens. We have just under an hour left, so there's still lots of time to find something. Let's enjoy Africa just after sunset. Look there, guys. It's the rare English Australian beast. That is Hayden Turner and Brian, who spotted us. Let's go see what they're doing. A big waterhole after the next few big rains we might get, or hopefully will get. You will find that this will fill up nicely with water. Where's Aiden going? Aha! Hey, let me just show you these vehicles we drive around on. We will go up there and say how's it just now, but that's a great view of this vehicle, which is called Wendy. But brilliant little cars. I love Land Rovers personally, and these are just the best ones you can get for what we do out here in terms of ability to maneuver through the bush, twist and turn and zigzag through difficult terrain, deep gaps and gorges. There is nothing better than this. Great petrol engines in them. Not many Land Rovers have petrol engines, normally diesel engines. These have got brilliant engines in them. They've got special off-road suspension, which it sits high like that. I often get so excited when I come down here just by knowing that I'm going to get to drive these vehicles around. Alright guys, well let's go get the update from Hayden with regards to the leopard first hand, and we're going to do it like this. I like this.
Come on. Stop.
Mr. Turner.
Hello there. Well, what a
nice hat.
Interesting situation we had there. It was fantastic. Brent called us in, folks. So last when we left you in that really thick vegetation up there, we came out. It's getting too dark for the guys to be out walking, so they pulled out, and then Brent suggested that we follow the drainage line down. So we came down there, and then I just went down this other kind of much wider drainage line, thinking we might have intercepted him there. But I haven't given up yet. We've still got 50 minutes of cat time, and as Andrew likes to call it, leopard hour is upon us. So we're going to just little bumble around this area, Pete, I think, and just have a bit of a squiz and see what you think. Because I just don't know. It was so close. We were there and they had him visual, but the vegetation was just crazy to get through, and also, you know, the animal will start to hear the vehicle making so much noise. So,
HT, any idea which leopard it might be?
No,
my leopard?
They couldn't get a visual on it, but it was they think it might have been a male that moved off quite quickly. So we don't know, guys, but opportunity to just have a bit of a look around here.
Yeah,
he was heading this direction, so maybe, I don't know, mate, if we team up and...
well, I think let's do that a bit. You want to go high ground, I go riverbed, other way around.
Well, I was just going to pop back down and go up that riverbed again.
Okay, you do that. Also, this signal might be dodgy down the riverbed, and you can stay on this vehicle for now.
All right.
And I'm going to find the leopard first, obviously. And or alternatively, I'll find the leopard when you call me and I come have a look. So also, I just had to say, guys, on the back there, that person there is actually Andrew this afternoon. I thought it was Brian because they all from a distance look like bank robbers when they're dressed like that. So yeah, Andrew, nice to have you a bit on the vehicle. Andrew is, generally speaking, the drone pilot. So yeah, nice to see you guys. You can take the riverbed, I'm going to take Twin Dams Road, and we'll probably see each other towards Spaghetti Junction somewhere, and we regroup.
Got it. Cool. Right, folks, we'll see you just now. See you later.
Bit of a different view there of the vehicles. As HT was saying there, show you this. The rain can play a big role, obviously, in animals being found or not found. Leopard quite often like to move in drainage lines, these riverbed systems. I'll give you an idea just now. So basically what we're going to do is Hayden's going to take the riverbed itself, the drainage line, or sorry, I've got a bit of a hiccup there. He's going to move through that. Leopard often use that. I'm going to use the road parallel to it because leopard often use the road as well. It's an easy place to walk on in terms of the road obviously being nice and clear. So this would be a riverbed. If you look here to the right, that's the sandy bottom of the riverbed, and if we get big rainstorm, now if we get the really heavy rains of summer, then this could be in flood. I've seen this where it's covered bank to bank with rushing water. And also along these drainage lines you obviously have bigger trees because there's more water around, and these bigger trees like the one we're looking at now, that's a jackalberry. I've seen leopards many times up in this individual specific tree we're looking at now. Over the years you get to see leopard in many of these big trees. So a beautiful area. I mean, even if you don't follow or look for a leopard in it, there's always a possibility of interesting wildlife in these riverbeds. Bushbuck, nyala, elephant like them. You never know what you could find, but it's also just pretty. Big trees, nice coarse river sand. Always fun to just drive down it just for the sort of driving experience as well. So I'm just going to take that road. We're going to take a seat here because it's a nice seat, and we'll see. Hayden should be coming driving up this way just now, but for now there's some interesting pretty things to eat in the tent, so enjoy it. We'll see you in a bit.
Out here, not many this time of the year, Marcus, but one of the ones that is starting to fruit now, of course, is the great marula fruit. Now the marula fruit is a very famous fruit in Africa. Of course, it's made famous by the cream liqueur called amarula, which contains about 0.00000035% of actual marula fruit in it, but it does contain a little bit. The fruit itself, though, is very delicious indeed. It's got lots of vitamin C in it, lots of sugar, and so around January and February in this area, the elephants and the human beings, the monkeys and the baboons go crazy for the fruit, as do many of the grazers. I've seen kudu and nyala and various other animals eat marula fruits. This one, of course, is nowhere near ripe. It won't ripen now, of course, because it's a bit stunted and just not a very good example. The first runt fruit of the season. But Marcus, the other thing that a marula fruit does is give you a nut, and the nuts, that's what the seed of a marula fruit, or the pip, looks like, and the seed is inside, and it's fed by a very nutritious and delicious nut that's very high in selenium, which of course is very good for the immune system, and it looks like a little alien head. If we look at it like that there, you can see that's sort of where the alien's eye might be, and if we do that, you can see where the nut is, and we can pull that out there. That was loosened earlier, I must confess to you. The nut has been eaten, probably by a weevil or some other kind of invertebrate that's got in there and eaten something delicious. The nut is really quite delicious, but unless you're an unemployed person with nothing else to do in the day, removing the nuts from these seeds is an extremely tedious process, and you need to sit with a rock and basically just bash them all day long, otherwise you don't eat them. But there are lots around if you have the time and inclination. Now let's come across back here to the microscope. We'll go straight to the microscope view. There we go. Now this is called a devil's thorn flower, and I will show you why it's called a devil's thorn just now. The most important thing to notice about this is the amazing, you can see the petal flapping there in the wind, is the incredible sort of landing strip of ultraviolet purple there, and to an insect that will look like ultraviolet light to you and I. There's an amazing view there. That is, of course, we have a new man on camera at the moment. This is the inimitable Scott Dyson, who lied to me earlier about the scorpion hairs. We'll get onto that later, probably after the show. So these ultraviolet landing strips here will look basically like an ultraviolet landing strip to an insect. We can see them as purple. To an insect that will look completely different. It will shine like a beacon, and so the insect will go in here like this. And what's really clever, if I move this around, try and maintain the focal distance, that's amazing actually. Now look there, those are the anthers that carry the pollen, and what the insect will do is go in through that landing strip, pick up the pollen off the anthers on its back by mistake, and then fly out again and carry the pollen off to another plant where it will be pollinated. Isn't that brilliant? So the insect will fly into the top there, frontwards, perhaps pick up some pollen on its back, fly out, go to another one, and then you can see how the fertilization would happen. Now, sorry, don't move it there. That's actually quite a nice picture. That's why it's called a devil's thorn, everyone. That is the seed that will eventually come of this flower. So this beautiful purple flower will eventually turn into that seed once it has been pollinated, the fruit has formed, and it will form this incredible thing. And you can see exactly why it would have these thorns. Isn't it quite brilliant? If you're walking along with bare feet and you happen to be an elephant, that will stick into the back of your foot, bottom of your foot, and off you'll go, and you'll then deposit it somewhere else, and it will then grow off, which I think is magnificent. And thank you very much, Miss Jin in Dallas, Texas, for your compliments about our little setup here with our microscope and our screens and things. I must say I was a little bit daunted by the thought of coming in here at one stage, but now look, we've spent 3 hours sitting here. Look at that view. We've been looking out at that. Viam is currently flying the drone from just outside. Louise and Eugene are knocking about the clearing, finding fascinating little bits and pieces. Viam, say hello. People are watching you. There we go. Don't be impolite. That's it. Very must concentrate. We have Tebs and Eugene. Now, let's have a look here. Now, little Gracie, aged 8, you want to know if these skulls that we have here, which are really rather magnificent, have died of natural causes or if they've been killed. Gracie, unfortunately out here, unlike with human beings where we can get old and we die naturally, unlike that, these animals tend to get eaten. They don't really, as soon as they get a little bit weak, a predator will normally eat them. So if you look at this buffalo here, he is an old fellow. You can see that his horns have spread wide apart. He is very big, and I suspect he was quite weak when he died, Gracie, and so the lions ate him, I think, before he could die of natural causes. The warthog also, I mean, it's difficult to tell, Gracie. Now, it's difficult because, of course, anything that does die of natural causes out here will be eaten by predators. And that means that you will see teeth marks, and sometimes animals look like they've been killed by predators when they haven't necessarily. And if we look at this warthog here, you can see the hyenas have had a go at the front here, and they've definitely chewed away at different bits and pieces of the skull. And across to the giraffe here, a massively heavy thing, this giraffe skull. But again, Gracie, you can see the front has been bitten off by animals. But just remember, although it's sometimes, I remember being your age and I remember thinking how horrible it must be to live in the bush, and thinking I'd never want to go and live out there where all these predators are around and they eat everything that they come across. Remember, very few animals comparatively get eaten They often live very long lives before they get eaten, and sometimes it's just their time to go. And remember, those predators, much like us, of course, we sometimes eat meat too. These predators have to eat, and so you mustn't worry too much about it, and don't think of it as a tremendously uncomfortable way of life for these animals. The one thing I did just want to show you quickly on the skull here is this calcification, and we often see this on the adult bull giraffes. They get these big mounds on the front of their heads, and as any good rugby or American football player will tell you, your skull will eventually get thicker if you keep bashing it against somebody else's skull. That's of course a lot of what giraffe do when they're fighting, and that's why that skull tends to calcify. It gets thicker after injury. It's like a scar tissue. Okay, still tracking the leopard is Hayden. It's got a bit dark for Brent to be doing it at the moment, so he's headed off home. Let's head across to Hayden, and just before we do that, we've got something here. Hayden doesn't have it yet. There's a hyena just over there watching the tent, and we don't have a huge zoom on this camera, but we'll just try and get a quick look at it there. There, you can see it. Well done, Scott. Good job. Look at him walking away there. Right, I wonder if we wouldn't try. You see, he's sat down now. Let's try, Scott, if you walk very carefully out of here, we might get a slightly better view. What happened?
No, I'm just
okay.
terrible job here.
Okay, this is very difficult, everybody. It's not designed for this sort of thing, but we might get a slightly better view. And there he is. There he is. Now, as I've come out of the tent, he's lain down, he's put his head down, but he's fascinated. Hyenas are tremendously curious animals. And we'll see if we can get a drone shot of it with Viam. Viam is now running at great speed. He's just like a pilot that's been scrambled after an air raid or during an air raid. Come on, Viam, get up in the air. He's got it loaded up. I feel like I'm hunching like a hunchback. There's no need. The hyena can see me perfectly well as it is. And he's now watching with great interest. So hyena, very fascinated all the time. Sometimes when you look at that one, he looks like he's a completely friendly animal. They are pretty friendly, but at night they will be on the looking for opportunities. So he's looking to see if there isn't something to eat here. And by something to eat, he would think, I mean, he may even have a chew at some of the bones we've got here. He might look to see if we've left anything around, like Scott's potato chips, for example. He'd definitely eat those. He'd probably be violently sick for a week afterwards. And now, Richard King, that's a very interesting question. While we wait for Viam to fly his F-14 Tomcat over the top of this hyena, it's the slowest F-14 in the world. Richard, you want to know if we don't wear leather because it might attract animals? Richard, we do wear leather on our belts normally. And no, you won't attract animals by wearing leather. It's really not an issue at all to wear leather out here. Animals wouldn't be attracted by it unless they were really, really close by. That said, if you left some leather boots outside your room at night, unless they were Brent Leo Smiths, in which case no self-respecting hyena would touch them, but certainly if you were to leave your normal shoes outside, definitely what would happen is that the hyenas would come and take them and eat them. And many, many people have lost boots to hyenas over the years because they've left them outside after a long day out in the bush. Right, the drone is making its way to the hyena. I can see it there. Here it comes. Right, we're going to go across to the drone view, and Viam is now going to try and find the hyena from where he is at the moment. And you can see there that you can, well, oh right, there he is on the right hand side of the frame there. You can see him just between the trees, and Viam will go over the top there and see if he won't stay still while we look at him. So I'm looking at him over the top of the screen here, and the hyena is now fascinated. He's looking up at the drone. He won't be afraid of it, but he'll be interested and perhaps a little concerned that there might be a giant swarm of bees coming to visit him. There he is. Isn't that lovely? And again, I'm just amazed by how when we're standing on the ground it looks tremendously green, and when we cut back to Scott's shot you'll be able to see that how green it looks from one side, and then look how green that looks compared with the shot that Wium's got. And that's simply because the grass and the forbs that are growing on this clearing are actually so sparse. Right, so Wium will now just show you where we are in relation to the hyena. There, the hyena. Oh, look at the colour on that. Isn't that just spectacular? That's just so beautiful. Wonderful hyena. And now you can see vaguely where we are. Oh, no, you can't. No, you can't. I don't know what Wium's looking at there. Ah, there we go. Yes. No. That's the final control there. And we can see, oh right, there we are, we can see the people there. That's the fireside chat. Eugene and Louise and Wium sitting there. Wonderful shot there of where we're sitting. There's the tent. And we'll have a quick look at the sunset. We'll have a slow look at the sunset. There we go. Look at the golden light here covering this beautiful clearing. Wonderful. And there is the setting sun. This is very difficult, of course, because Wium has no control over the camera. Oh my goodness, look at that. It's just beautiful. Wowee. What a sunset after a fairly blustery, cold, not very nice day. And very beautiful hyena, golden light. And Pretty Nightmare, you're absolutely correct. The hyenas love to go into the garbage at the lodges, as evidenced by Eugene's find today. Eugene found, of course, a fork that was stolen by a hyena earlier at an earlier time. Sometimes, if we don't close the gate at night, the hyenas will come in and they'll pull the dustbin over and they'll take out bits and pieces that might have a little bit of taste to them. They normally then spit them out and strew them about the place like they did with that fork. So we need to be quite careful of it. And the other animals that do that, of course, were the animals that Brent was looking for today on his walk. Those honey badgers, they love to come into camp and raid a whole lot of dustbins. Right, let's go back to Hayden after we've had a look at this incredible sunset. Isn't that just magnificent? And also cast in the golden light of that sunset is Hayden Turner, erstwhile visitor from originally Australia, now England, and wonderful to have him back here. He's in the drainage line now, and let's go and see what he has to show us.
Well, folks, we've been up and down this drainage line a few times now. The direction that leopard was walking was this way. The drainage lines that the leopard were in are all leading to this drainage line, which then goes on to another dam. So maximising your chances by going up and down this dry riverbed is a really, really good thing. The time is perfect, and what will happen is leopard use these drainage lines or these dry riverbeds to navigate their way through and then pop up onto a little level area where they could come across potential prey. So they sort of skulk down these drainage lines and then they look up, and then there might be impala or something else, a kudu or something like that feeding there, and unsuspectingly they have a win. So the stealth of and beauty and strength of leopard are what is so sort of mesmerising, I suppose. They are, to me, and I always like to say this, they are the epitome of strength and beauty and stealth and style and just oh, they're just such an incredible cat. Yeah, I love them. We all love them, but it's encapsulated in this body of a cat, and it's, when you come across them, your heart races. My heart's sort of pumped now because you don't know what's around the next corner, and driving through here you just don't know. So we'll keep going. Pete's gone up to another area to cover that as well, but this is what we do. This is why we do it, because of the excitement of potentially whatever, we turn around that bend and it could be a leopard, and that to me is what it's all about. And what stunning things to see. Like, just, this is what the brilliant thing about Safari Live is. A hyena can just come walking past the tent there like that, and that just happens, and it's just it's just brilliant. It's so stimulating, it's so exciting, and we love it. We love it, folks, and we love that you love it as well. Where was it in all our lives that we got our love nature switch flicked on? I don't know, but it happened to all of us watching, and all of us that love doing this, somewhere, sometime in our life. And we'll talk more about that. It's just really, really well, it's good to know that great minds think alike. Look who I found here. I just said to everyone watching, a couple of times, so we're just telling everyone watching that maximising our chances here. You gave us the lead, mate, that you might have thought it came down here. So I've just gone up to Spaghetti Junction there once, turned around, come down. Pete's back over to Pete and see what he's up to, guys. We'll see you guys. Thanks. Cheers.
Well, as you've been seeing from other viewpoints as well, it is that time of the evening when it's absolutely stunning, and the sky and the colours, the blues and the pinks and the shapes of the trees, the sounds of the bush that's alive around us. This is what safari is about. This is what going out into nature for a game drive is about. All the different experiences, all the senses alive, the sounds, the smells. At the moment there's not a great deal of smell at the moment specifically, but it's that general taste, if you want, of evening approaching. It's cooling down a little bit, the air in your skin starts to feel soft and satin like, and you can just look around and let your mind wander. Absolutely love that. More colourful view. I think we can all certainly agree that the addition of the drone and the perspective it's given us has just been awesome. Really fantastic to see this, fantastic to see it from this perspective. Very good. Sunset Safari. Very apt explanation or name for it tonight. There the smell was good. We're just going through a low-lying area, one of these drainage lines, and obviously the air is cooler in the lower parts of the habitat here, or the area we're driving in. It will be slightly warmer up where the drone is. Stunning. Oh, sorry, bumpy. Hello Danny, nice to have you on drive from Chicago. Danny, you were just wondering what's the most exciting or my favorite moment I've had on live drive, and my most embarrassing. Wow, I'll tell you what jumped to mind, although it wasn't embarrassing, but I didn't really get embarrassed, I think. Oh, look at that sky. Sorry, we've looked at the sky now, but that's just crazy. Danny, I'll answer your question just now, but that's just stunning. We'll try and get some shapes into that background for you just now. A tree or some leaves or something is always nice, but that is just unbelievable colors. Wow. And that line that you can see, even though it looks like a mountain, it's actually cloud over the escarpment. That is just spectacular. Let's try and find something to showcase that against. Genre, if you see something you like, shout. Some leaves or a twig or a tree. Danny, so that's not a bad tree, that shape. Yeah, I don't really get embarrassed, because I consider all of you on the vehicle as friends, even those of you I don't know. Here's a nice little shape against the horizon. So it's the ignition playing up. Where we're sitting now, I mean literally 30 yards from where we're sitting watching this spectacular sky, I had what would be the closest thing to an emotional breakdown, I guess, live on screen during a television drive. I think it was a television drive, I can't remember. When my daughter said hello to me, it was at the end of quite a long stint. I'd been away from home for a long time. We'd slept very little, we'd worked very hard, and I just got so emotional. My daughter said hello to me, and I couldn't speak for a while. Those of you that were there with me on that day, it was quite a special experience, and I guess that could be embarrassing for many people, but for me it's just the way it is. It's just life. More importantly, it's live, and those two things are very close together for me. And it was a great experience. In fact, if I look back on it now, it's one of the greatest experiences I've had live, and what I learned personally from it in terms of sharing and being able to share emotions with people on the vehicle. And as I said, Danny, and that includes you, even though it sounds like you might be new to the Safari Live experience. I have friends on this vehicle, and I look at all of you as people that share not only a common passion for wildlife, the same as I do, but also share a space with me and do so willingly, and I do so willingly. So embarrassment is something you only can really feel, I guess, if you're worried about what other people would think about you at that stage. In terms of favorite moments, Danny, have you got about a year or so to sit and listen, because I can just rattle them off. I can think of 10 right now, just off the top of my head. Just close to here, the first live drive we had to television last year, we had that incredible moment, or moments, with a leopard Djuma, a young male, following him, walking right into our fireside chat. Hayden sitting at the fire, leopard in the front. Hyena chased it up into a tree. We were sitting under the tree, drove around to the fire, sat next to Hayden chatting about the day, with a leopard literally sitting in a tree behind us. That's one I'll remember for a long time. The very next day, live safari, had a lion kill against all odds, because they'd already killed a few buffalo. They were full. But then just some sunsets I've seen. This one, talking about memories and experiences, just look at the layers there. Look at the bushveld in the front, that dark layer of cloud over the escarpment, and the higher up clouds catching the last of the rays of the sun as the earth is turning. I mean, that's just perfect right there. I've also had some great experiences just with driving, and what I mean with that, Danny, is this one now. You asking me this question at this time, and we've got this incredible sky, and we're close to one of my favorite parts of Djuma, up where the tent is. We've had some amazing experiences there. But one of my favorite experiences was the last drive I did just a month ago, before flying out, and then obviously before coming back and seeing you guys again now. That last drive, the television drive, we had 1 hour, and that leopard kill we found minutes into the hour. The impala was still breathing and kicking when we got there. The hyena started to weigh. I mean, the odds of that happening is 1 in a million. That was a great experience, but just because the energy levels, it was just insane. That was a good one. But so many drives. I always say this about safaris, Danny, is, the safari, yes, it is about finding lion and elephant. That plays a role. But a safari is about so much more. It's about the experience of being out here. Everything from flying here to driving here to flying in to getting out, smelling the hot air of the bush around you, hearing lions roar, listening to the bugs, seeing a thunderstorm, driving along, not saying anything, just enjoying the space around you, looking at the sunset, all those things. So ultimately, I think my favorite moment on Safari Live or on live safaris would have to be that experience, that moment we're sharing right now. That will never be shared again, because it's past, and we can never know what the next moment will be, because it's in a very real future. And as you know, the future, you can't really tell what it's going to be. So maybe my very favorite moment of a Safari Live experience, my favorite moment of being on Game Drive with you is right now. Being here doing this, that could have to be my highlight from the experience I've gained in this. Thanks for that question, Danny. I like it. Hello, Fiona. Now, Danny, that would show you that Fiona's been on drives with us a few times. She's just asking out of the UK if I've smelt a potato bush. Funny enough, I haven't. That dip back there that I said we're going through a dip, which is at Philemon's dip, is what we call it. It's one of the places you always smell potato bush. But the potato bushes will start smelling more now as we go into summer, because they'll start growing again, more water available to them. So quite soon you'll smell that. And just to explain it, Danny, sorry, I keep referring to you now, Danny, but Danny could almost be from Ireland, I guess, with a name like that. And Fiona was asking about the potato bush, but it smells just like boiling potatoes. I mean, like, you will not tell the difference. I've driven through dips and low-lying areas in the evenings going home like we are now and being a bit hungry. Oh, there's a zebra crossing. Another one. And you would start salivating when you smell the potato bushes because you're so hungry heading home. So it smells just like potato, but it doesn't have potatoes on it. Let me just find the spotlight. So that's what Fiona was referring to. We're going to start using the spotlight just to explain a little bit. Generally speaking, we don't view diurnal animals too much with the spotlight. A little bit of looking at them is not a problem. We try and keep the light out of their faces as well. Their eyes recover very quickly. It's not like with us. If I had to put this in my eyes, I would drive into things for the next half an hour because I wouldn't be able to see. But for diurnal animals like zebra, impala and so forth, it affects them a little bit. To be honest with you, I've looked at them many times. They still run, they still do their thing. You just mustn't put this right in their faces. So when we're driving for the night drive, if we do see something that we wouldn't normally bother with a light, we'll just take it away. Although it's not quite dark yet, so again, it wouldn't affect them much. This is the herd of impala we saw earlier. You can see they're all spread out here. There's some more. Still busy grazing and getting some food. Oh, here's the sort of the bulk or the main body of the herd. Now this herd of impala and their ancestors before them, we've seen often. They like this area. They often come and stay here. And during this season, which is the lambing season, which also falls over the same time frame as Big Cat Week, we see impala in this area often, and often we will see activity of predators around these impala as well. I'm going to stick around this area a little bit. Hey Maggie. Yes, Maggie's from Scotland. Guys, I just love this. You know, it's something I've talked a lot about with the guys here as well. I remember last visit, I sort of go through these different experiences when I come in. One of the ones, sorry, this is typical me late in the drive. I start rambling on. Maggie, what I'm trying to get to is, firstly, I love the fact that so many of you have been on drive so many times. So you can actually help me remember great stories because we've shared those moments. Maggie's just referring to a time I was driving to Rexon and Tumani, a good friend of mine. He great sense of humor, and we were driving and we thought we'd seen a pangolin. Now a pangolin is like, you can call it a scaly anteater if you want. Very, very cool animals. You don't see them. I mean, I've seen them twice in my life, and I've spent a lot of time in the bush. Very rare to see them. Very interesting and strange in a cool way. And both of us thought we'd seen the pangolin. We got super excited. I get excited when I see things that I get excited about. So I think it was probably obvious, Maggie, as you can remember. And when we got closer, it was what we'd seen. There were two tortoises who were mating, and tortoises are quite funny when they're mating. So it was quite a laugh. When you started telling the question, Maggie, I almost thought you were referring to the time we found the brown hyena, which is also very exciting. The first time in, remind me if you can remember, I think it was something like 17 years or something ridiculous, that a brown hyena had been confirmed as a confirmed sighting in Sabi Sands. We'd actually filmed it, so it couldn't be disputed. Yeah, just so many things. I remember, let's random memories. I was just thinking about a drive once with Leishan, my wife now, who was on the drive with me. She was on camera. I was driving this vehicle, the Jigga. We're looking for Karula and the two boys. I think it was Mishon and Duna, if I remember correctly, in the drainage line just below the dam wall of Voitela. And I got us stuck. Now, any of you guys who have done some off-road driving, especially with your wives while you're on holiday, if you get stuck, it's sometimes quite fun and sometimes not quite fun. I don't like getting stuck, but I like to go to places where inevitably you might get stuck, because that means you're really exploring. Anyway, we're trying to find this leopard. We went in this really funny dip and I got the car really badly stuck. Now, to get these vehicles stuck is not an easy thing, but I got us sort of into the mud. The two leopards were not far away, the two young leopards and Karula, just in the bush. We could see them. They were quite thick stuff watching us, and I had to climb out and I had to wedge logs under the tires and jack the car out. It was a long thing. Leishan sort of chuckled a little bit nervously and a little bit having fun, but we got the vehicle out. That's a memory that I haven't thought about for a while. So again, from your question earlier, Danny, nice to walk down memory lane a bit, and my voice is busy going away, which is a good sign. It means I'm getting it back into shape, and Hayden's gonna give you a little bit of a memory or two as well. So enjoy that, Hayden. I might see you before the end of drive, I might not as well. If I don't, have a lovely day, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Enjoy Hayden's talk.
Wow, that's what we see here in Africa, and every single time that vision is upon you, it's different, and it stops you in your tracks, leaves you breathless. The colours, it's just incredible, and tonight was one of the most beautiful sunsets I've seen in a long time. So you've heard a few stories from Pete here, and Danny in Chicago wanted to know what one of my favourite moments was and one of my most embarrassing moments. Let's start with the favourite moment first. I think I have to probably agree with Pete on that Djuma in the tree situation, which was totally out of control. Like, we did not know. How could you ever think that our first fireside chat, where we were going to cross live and Peter was going to join me at the fire, could ever be a hyena walking towards the leopard walking towards me? Got a great photograph of Peter took of me over and talking to camera over in the fire with smoke, and Djuma the leopard in the foreground. It's a beautiful shot, and I'm very lucky to have it. So that was one of my favourites as well. I had a couple of elephant encounters that I just will never forget. Individuals, particularly breeding herds, that have accepted you as you're not a threat. And I spent one time down the other side of Djuma with a herd that just got so close, and the matriarch was like so close to the vehicle and completely trusting us. All the animals were around us, and we were committed to that situation. But the trust and the understanding there was quite an extraordinary thing, to think that those animals of that power could just tolerate us and just include us in their habitat or their environment for the time. The first time I saw my leopard, Q, or Quarantine as he's known, way back, was probably one of those situations where I just didn't believe that on my first drive, 2 blocks, I remember I was only going around one particular area to stay safe because I didn't know the roads. I pretty much got thrown into it. It's the best way to learn sometimes. And I came around a corner, and with VM was on camera with me, and sure enough, there was Quarantine lying in the cool sand on a really, really hot morning. And it was about this time last year that it happened. Extraordinary thing, and your heart skips a beat. You don't believe your double take. Leopard or something incredible. The lion situations, all the big cats that we've had here, but one situation with a wild dog. My favourite, probably the predator sort of. It's one of those creatures that I cannot cannot sort of get enough of. The frantic activity when you're on the hunt with wild dog, there feels like nothing else on the planet. You don't want to be anywhere else except with those wild dog, following those wild dog, the frantic hunt, the chase, the way that they move, the colours, their painted coat going through the vegetation. It is just true sort of it bangs home basically how good those animals are. The markings on them, they're quite distinct. You'd see them running through, so it's not camouflage they're going after. That speed and that agility and just being with them and feeling like you're part of that hunt is a very, very special thing. So that's lots of my great memories, but one special memory was with a viewer, and that was way back, and my memories I've just gotten back on the vehicle, so I can't actually remember the little girl's name, but it really does escape me right now. But there was a lovely girl that called in with her grandmother a while back, and I think her name was Gracie. It was way back, and she was a very, very special little girl, and she said some things that were really, really important to her life and her grandmother with her special needs. So that was a very, 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 very cool thing. My most embarrassing moment, ever so quickly before I wrap up and say goodbye and link back, I just got to figure out who I'm linking to now, because I can't quite remember since I'm banging out. So it was this time where I came to Djuma waterhole, Viatella waterhole, and there was a herd of elephants in the dam swimming around, but I could only see trunks and tops of heads, and they were rolling around. And I'm talking about this breeding herd, banging on about it, how incredible the behaviour was, and the matriarch, and how beautiful it was. About 9 individuals, and they all got out and walked up the bank, and there was some obvious things that told me that they were boys. Yeah. Right. So on that note, I'm going to cross to the tent and leave you with that. Yeah. Anyway, it's been fantastic this afternoon, guys, and really, really love you all. Thank you very much for all the welcome backs and being here again and watching Safari Live. And remember, let's get these kids into this as much as we possibly can. It's been beautiful, and hopefully I'm going to see you tomorrow. Take care from Andrew and I. We'll see you then.
Stunning. Look at that is the scorpion that we've been looking at, and well, his pincer and his tail, and I'm told by the cameraman today, who is of course Scott Dyson, that is a result of something called a hyaline layer that is in the exoskeleton of the scorpion. And before we discuss it any further, you've had a look at it now with the light like this. Let's hit the lights back on, and you can see the difference. Oh, you can't because Scott's in the way. Let's just move out the way there, and then you can see the difference in the color. Now what we're doing is we're shining a UV light onto bits and pieces of this scorpion, and the hyaline layer, which reflects UV light, is probably a little bit like that flower that we were looking at, that devil's thorn flower, which reflects UV light, and perhaps, I'm sure other scorpions can see that light. It might be to attract predators, at least not predators, might be to attract mates, or it might be to attract prey, much the same way that the flower does. It attracts insects. Scorpions can be voracious insect eaters, so it might be to attract the insects, but nobody's really sure why they have that hyaline layer in the exoskeleton that makes them glow and reflect that amazing UV color. Spectacular stuff. Right. That was the scorpion. That was all the amazing things that we've seen today, and I'm just going to show you one more thing here quickly. Where has he gone? Here, a cricket. Just before we go into the night, you can see a cricket there, and the crickets, of course, this is their time now. They'll come out and they'll start stridulating those great big, oh sorry, we're not doing so well with the light here, there we go. Start stridulating his legs together and making those wonderful sounds of the summer night that we're going to hear just now. So thank you everybody for being with us in our little tent today. We've had a wonderful time looking at lots of different things, small things, not many large things, although we did see that wonderful hyena. Thank you all the collectors, Eugene and Louise. Viam was flying the drone, Scott was on camera and collecting, Steph was collecting a bit today, Teb's on camera. Big thank you to the ladies in the final control, and we had some questions in the tent today, which was really lovely. Please send them through again tomorrow. We're going to hand over to Peter now, and he will say goodbye to you until tomorrow morning. Stay safe and happy wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you then. Bye bye, and thank you very much.
Guys, just look at that sky. Even though the bright, rich colors are gone, we are sitting with those last bit of sort of softer colors of the setting sun, or the set sun. Nice big marula tree. We're actually quite close to the tent where you've been with James looking at various things. Last, I believe, very fittingly, the crickets that are starting to sing their songs for the night, or chirp their chirps. On my side, it's been a lovely afternoon. I mean, it's not been sorry, I was just getting a question there. It's been a great afternoon for me, actually, even though we didn't find the leopard, even though we didn't necessarily find the big animals we always look for. It's a good reminder as well that great safari really is about the company you have, which you guys are the best company in the world, literally. And it's about the experience of being out there. I mean, the sky tonight was magnificent. We'd seen it from various angles, various places, with various people telling you about it. That's part of the experience. So it's been great for me in that respect. Nice just to settle in as well. For Hayden as well to be back on drive. Christine, you were just asking quickly before we say goodbye, what animals would my children like to see? My daughter would like to see all of it. She'd actually love all the bugs. She's really into insects and things at the moment, but then she also likes the big animals. She loves dogs. She's very close to our dogs, so I think wild dogs would be awesome for her. And leopard and lion, I mean, I've been on game drive with her. She always just wants to go and say, I want to go, Papa, kan ek uitklim en gaan vat? She always says, can I get out and go and sit with them, because she wants to always sort of get close to them. And great to have them on drive as well. So together with you guys being on safari with us, fantastic to have my family joining as often as they can. My wife Leisha and I was just chatting with Jean about her and the 2 kids. So it's awesome to share this experience, and I think that tonight's drive highlighted that in some respect. Otherwise, not much else. Jean, fantastic to be on the vehicle with you. Thank you. Looking forward to more of it. And of course, most importantly, you guys, thank you for making it possible for me and for everyone else to be out here doing this. Looking forward to tomorrow again. We're going to see you again on Safari Live. Bye bye.